The emergency sirens wailed across Geneva as Ambassador Elena Rodriguez hurried through the marble corridors of the Global Defense Council headquarters. Her heels clicked against the polished floor with increasing urgency. The message had been clear and terrifying. The Galactic Oversight Council had just executed every human representative on the orbital station above Mars. Elena burst into the Situation Room, where General Marcus Chun stood before a wall of monitors displaying real-time feeds from across the solar system. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of the control panel. "How many?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "All 17, General Chun replied without turning around. Ambassador Walsh, Director Petrov, the entire diplomatic team. The Zathari commander claims they were plotting rebellion against the Council's authority." Elena sank into a chair, the weight of the news crushing down on her. The Galactic Oversight Council had arrived in Earth's solar system 3 years ago, claiming to represent a coalition of advanced civilizations. They had presented themselves as peacekeepers, offering humanity protection and guidance in exchange for compliance with galactic law. Initially, many world leaders had welcomed the aliens. The technology they shared seemed miraculous. Disease rates plummeted. Energy became abundant. Food scarcity became a distant memory. But beneath the surface, humanity was slowly being stripped of its autonomy. The Council's laws were absolute and often incomprehensible to human minds. Citizens could be detained for violations they never knew existed. Earth's military forces were systematically dismantled under the guise of promoting peace. Traditional human governance structures were replaced with Council-approved administrators. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the lead scientist for Earth's most classified project, entered the Situation Room with her tablet displaying critical data. Her usually pristine lab coat was wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed her eyes from months of sleepless nights. "General, we've confirmed the executions through our deep space monitoring network," she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The Council broadcast the event across their communication channels as a warning to other member species. Elena stood up abruptly. "This changes everything. They're not interested in cooperation anymore. They're sending a message that absolute submission is the only acceptable relationship." General Chun finally turned from the monitors, his expression grim but determined. "Dr. Mitchell, how long until the Prometheus protocol is fully operational?" Sarah checked her tablet, scrolling through complex data streams. "The final calibrations were completed yesterday. All 7 installations are synchronized and ready for activation. But, General, once we initiate the protocol, there's no going back. The Council will detect the energy signatures within hours." The Prometheus protocol represented humanity's greatest secret and perhaps its only hope for survival. For the past decade, even before the Council's arrival, Earth's most brilliant scientists had been working on a project that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. The project began when Dr. James Harrison, a theoretical physicist at CERN, made an unprecedented discovery while studying quantum field fluctuations. He found that consciousness itself could be weaponized under specific conditions. Human brain patterns, when amplified and focused through quantum field manipulators, could create reality-altering effects on a massive scale. The discovery had been so revolutionary and potentially dangerous that only a handful of people knew about it. When the Galactic Council arrived, the project took on new urgency. Earth's leaders realized they needed an equalizer, something the technologically superior aliens wouldn't expect. Elena walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva. In the distance, she could see the massive spires of the Council's administrative complex, a stark reminder of humanity's current subjugation. "How many people are we talking about involving in the protocol?" "The calculations indicate we need approximately 1 billion human minds linked simultaneously," Sarah replied. "The quantum field generators can amplify and focus the collective consciousness, but we need that critical mass to achieve the necessary resonance frequency." General Chun moved to a secure terminal and began entering his authorization codes. The infrastructure is already in place. The global communication network we built for emergency coordination was actually designed to facilitate the neural linking process. Every smartphone, every internet connection, every satellite dish can become part of the network. The plan was audacious beyond comprehension. Humanity would essentially merge its collective consciousness temporarily, creating a focused mental force that could manipulate reality itself. The theoretical models suggested this combined consciousness could rewrite physical laws on a local scale, potentially neutralizing the Council's technological advantages. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What about the risks to the participants? Sarah's expression became even more serious. Extended exposure to the quantum field could cause permanent neurological changes. We're talking about fundamentally altering human consciousness. Some participants might not be able to return to normal cognitive patterns. And if we do nothing? General Chun asked pointedly. The question hung in the air like a physical weight. The Council's treatment of the executed ambassadors had made their intentions clear. Humanity was no longer viewed as a junior partner in galactic civilization, but as a potential threat to be managed through fear and brutality. Elena made her decision. How do we begin? Dr. Mitchell activated her tablet's secure communication system. We start with the inner circle. The world leaders who know about Prometheus have been preparing their populations through subliminal conditioning embedded in regular communications. Citizens don't know they're being prepared, but their minds have been gradually synchronized with the base frequency we'll need. General Chen accessed another terminal, revealing a world map dotted with glowing points. Our facilities in Nevada, Siberia, Antarctica, the Australian outback, the Sahara, the Amazon, and Tibet are all reporting ready status. Each installation contains a quantum field generator capable of reaching approximately 150 million people in its operational radius. The scope of the deception was staggering. For 3 years, while publicly cooperating with the Galactic Council, Earth's leadership had been preparing for this moment. Every major infrastructure project, every technological upgrade, every cultural initiative had been secretly designed to support the Prometheus protocol. Elena studied the map, realizing that nearly every human on the planet would be within range of at least one facility. What happens when we activate the network? The quantum fields will create a resonance pattern that gradually synchronizes human brainwaves across the globe, Sarah explained. People will begin thinking and feeling as parts of a larger consciousness while retaining their individual personalities. The combined mental force can then be directed towards specific objectives. General Chun pulled up another display showing the current positions of Council forces throughout the solar system. We have 17 major installations on Earth, 43 orbital platforms, and their command ship position beyond the asteroid belt. Intelligence suggests approximately 200,000 Council personnel across all facilities. Elena felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. They were contemplating a course of action that could fundamentally change what it meant to be human. But the alternative was accepting permanent subjugation or potential extinction. There's something else, Sarah added quietly. The quantum field effects might not be limited to the Council forces. The resonance could affect the fundamental structure of space-time in our solar system. We might accidentally alter physical constants or create unpredictable phenomena. The risk was enormous, but Elena thought about the 17 ambassadors who had died believing they were protecting humanity's future. She thought about the millions of people whose lives had been gradually constrained by alien oversight. She thought about the children who would grow up never knowing what human independence felt like. Dr. Mitchell, begin the activation sequence, Elena commanded. General Chun, notify all world leaders that Operation Prometheus is a go. We're about to discover what humanity is truly capable of. Sarah's fingers moved across her tablet, initiating protocols that had been years in development. Across the globe, quantum field generators began powering up, their massive energy requirements drawing power from hidden fusion reactors that had been constructed under the cover of renewable energy projects. In Nevada, the desert facility hummed to life beneath its camouflage surface. The installation looked like a solar collection farm to satellite observation, but beneath the ground lay one of the most sophisticated consciousness manipulation devices ever conceived. Dr. Rachel Kim, the facility's director, watched as massive superconducting coils began generating precisely calibrated electromagnetic fields. All systems showing green. Quantum resonance chamber is achieving target frequency. Similar reports came in from installations around the world. In Siberia, the permafrost concealed a facility that tapped into the planet's magnetic field. In Antarctica, researchers who were supposedly studying climate change monitored equipment that could influence human consciousness across 2 continents. Elena felt a slight tingling sensation as the first quantum field reached Geneva. It was subtle at first, like a gentle humming at the edge of perception. But gradually, she became aware of something extraordinary happening. She could sense other minds. Not their thoughts exactly, but their emotional presence. General Chen's determination. Dr. Mitchell's scientific curiosity mixed with fear. Thousands of other consciousness scattered across the globe, all beginning to resonate at the same frequency. The initial synchronization is working, Sarah reported, though her voice sounded different somehow, more harmonious. We're detecting neural pattern convergence across all active zones. Approximately 50 million people are now connected to the network. Elena closed her eyes and felt the sensation intensify. It was as if she were standing in a vast cathedral where millions of people were humming the same note. Individual voices remained distinct, but together they created something larger and more powerful than the sum of their parts. General Chun was monitoring military communications when an urgent message appeared on his screen. The Council forces are responding to something. Their orbital platforms are powering up weapons systems. Elena opened her eyes, and for a moment, she saw the situation room differently. She could perceive the electromagnetic signatures of every device, the subtle quantum fluctuations in the air, the interconnected web of human consciousness spreading across the planet like a living network. They can sense what we're doing, she realized. The quantum field is affecting local space-time enough that their sensors are detecting anomalies. Dr. Mitchell's readings confirmed the observation. Council ships are moving into defensive positions. Their command vessel is transmitting what appears to be an emergency signal to other parts of the galaxy. Elena felt a surge of shared determination flowing through the growing network of connected minds. Hundreds of millions of people who didn't fully understand what was happening to them nonetheless felt a collective resolve to resist the alien occupation. Dr. Mitchell, what's our current connection level? We're at 600 million and climbing rapidly. The quantum fields are operating at 60% capacity and drawing people into the network faster than our models predicted. Elena could feel the power building. It wasn't just the sensation of being connected to other minds. It was the growing awareness that reality itself was becoming more malleable. She looked at her hands and briefly saw them outlined in subtle energy patterns that seemed to respond to her thoughts. General Chun was coordinating with military units worldwide when alarms began blaring. Council ground forces are mobilizing. They're moving toward population centers with what intelligence identifies as suppression equipment. The aliens had apparently decided that whatever humanity was doing posed enough of a threat to require immediate action. Elena felt a wave of anger flow through the connected consciousness, amplified by hundreds of millions of minds sharing the same outrage. Sarah, can we accelerate the process? We're approaching the critical threshold now. 800 million connections and rising. The quantum field is achieving unprecedented coherence levels. Elena felt reality beginning to shift around her. The walls of the situation room seemed to pulse with energy. The air itself appeared to shimmer with potential. Through the window, she could see the council complex in the distance, and for the first time, it didn't look as imposing. Suddenly, General Chen's communications erupted with reports from around the globe. Something's happening to the Council installations. Local commanders are reporting equipment failures, power fluctuations, and communications disruptions. Elena realized that the collective human consciousness was already beginning to affect the alien technology. The quantum fields weren't just connecting human minds. They were creating interference patterns that disrupted the Council's sophisticated systems. 1 billion connections achieved, Sarah announced, her voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with the quantum field itself. The Prometheus protocol is fully operational. Elena felt the moment of transformation. Suddenly, she wasn't just Elena Rodriguez, Earth's ambassador to an alien council. She was part of something vastly larger and more powerful. Her consciousness expanded to encompass the experiences of 1 billion human minds, each contributing its unique perspective to a collective intelligence that had never existed before. Through this merged awareness, she could perceive the Council forces with perfect clarity. Their technology, which had seemed so advanced and intimidating, was revealed to be fundamentally limited by their understanding of consciousness as merely a biological phenomenon. They had never conceived that intelligence itself could become a force of nature. Elena raised her hand, and through the quantum field network, 1 billion other humans made the same gesture. Reality responded to their unified will. The Council's weapons systems began failing not because of any physical intervention, but because the collective human consciousness was rewriting the local laws of physics to make such weapons inoperable. The war for Earth's freedom was about to begin, but it would be fought on terms that no galactic civilization had ever imagined possible. Commander Vexai of the Zathri Imperial Fleet stood on the bridge of the orbital command station, watching his tactical displays with growing confusion. For 3 rotations of the local star, his forces had maintained perfect control over the primitive world below. The humans had seemed docile, accepting Council authority with only minor resistance. Now everything was changing in ways that defied his understanding of warfare. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, her crystalline voice carrying notes of uncertainty, "the humans appear to have activated some form of planetary defense network, but our scanners cannot identify the mechanism." Vexai's 4 eyes focused on the holographic display showing Earth's surface. Red indicators marked locations where Council equipment was experiencing malfunctions, but the pattern made no logical sense. The failures weren't following electromagnetic pulse signatures or conventional attack vectors. "Elaborate on the nature of these malfunctions," he commanded, his mandibles clicking with irritation. "Sir, our ground installations are reporting that weapons systems are simply stopping, not damaged, not destroyed, but as if the fundamental principles governing their operation have been altered. Additionally, our personnel are experiencing what they describe as cognitive intrusion, awareness of thoughts, and emotions that are not their own." Vexai had commanded fleets across 17 sectors of the galaxy. He had conquered civilizations that wielded antimatter weapons and manipulated gravitational fields. But he had never encountered anything like what was happening below. On Earth's surface, the transformation continued to accelerate. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood in the Nevada facility's control room, no longer seeing through just her own eyes. Through the quantum field network, she could simultaneously perceive the situation from 1 billion different perspectives. A farmer in Iowa felt the change as he worked his fields. Suddenly, he understood with perfect clarity how the alien ships in orbit functioned. A teacher in Tokyo experienced the thoughts of children around the world, all sharing the same determination to resist the Council's control. A mechanic in Sao Paulo found herself aware of quantum manipulation techniques that surpassed human scientific understanding. The collective consciousness wasn't just sharing emotions and determination, it was sharing knowledge, skills, and insights at a rate that traditional learning could never achieve. 1 billion human minds were becoming a single vast intelligence while retaining their individual personalities and experiences. Elena Rodriguez felt this expansion most acutely. As one of the focal points for the protocol's activation, her consciousness had become a hub through which information flowed. Her understanding of programming suddenly expanded to encompass alien computational systems. Without conscious effort, she began writing algorithms that could interface with Council technology. Across the globe, humanity was not just resisting the alien occupation, it was evolving at an impossible rate. The quantum field was allowing instant transfer of knowledge and capabilities between connected minds. A physicist's understanding of particle interactions could be shared with 1,000,000 others in seconds. A soldier's tactical experience could inform civilian resistance efforts worldwide. Commander Vexhai received increasingly disturbing reports from his ground forces. "Sir, the humans appear to be demonstrating knowledge of our technology and tactical procedures that should be impossible for them to possess." On his command screen, Vexhai watched surveillance footage from Council installations on Earth's surface. Human civilians were approaching heavily guarded facilities with confidence that defied explanation. They moved with perfect coordination, as if guided by tactical intelligence that surpassed his own military training. "How are they coordinating these activities?" he demanded. "Commander, we've detected no increase in their electromagnetic communications. Whatever method they're using for coordination appears to operate on principles unknown to Council science." Elena felt the next phase of the transformation beginning. The collective consciousness had achieved stable synchronization. Now it was time to test the true extent of their new capabilities. Through the network, she sent a focused intention to every connected mind. Demonstrate humanity's newfound power to the Council forces without causing unnecessary harm. The response was immediate and breathtaking. In London, a group of protesters approached the Council's administrative building. Instead of carrying signs or shouting slogans, they simply stood in formation and focused their collective will. The building's energy shields, designed to withstand nuclear weapons, flickered and disappeared. In Moscow, citizens gathered around a Council enforcement center. They joined hands and concentrated on a single shared thought. The alien detention facility's security systems shut down, not from any technological interference, but because the local laws of physics briefly reorganized themselves to make the systems inoperable. Dr. Mitchell monitored these events through the quantum field network while simultaneously overseeing the technical aspects of the protocol. The data was extraordinary. "Elena, we're seeing localized space-time distortions around areas of high human concentration. The collective consciousness is literally rewriting reality within limited zones." Elena felt a surge of excitement from the billion connected minds. Humanity had always dreamed of transcending its limitations, and now they were discovering that consciousness itself was the ultimate tool for reshaping existence. But the Council was not passive in their response. Commander Vexhai activated his ship's most powerful scanning arrays. "Begin deep quantum analysis of the planet's surface. Whatever the humans have done, there must be detectable energy signatures." His science officer, a being from a species known for their analytical precision, manipulated holographic controls with six-fingered hands. "Commander, I'm detecting quantum field fluctuations on a scale I've never observed. The entire planet appears to be wrapped in some form of consciousness amplification matrix." Consciousness amplification? Vexhai's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of severe stress. "That's theoretically impossible. Consciousness is a biological phenomenon, not a physical force." "Sir, our understanding may be incomplete. The quantum signature suggests that human brain activity is being coordinated and amplified through artificial field generators. The result appears to be a form of collective intelligence with reality manipulation capabilities." Vexhai felt something he had rarely experienced in his military career: uncertainty approaching fear. The Council had maintained galactic dominance for millennia through technological superiority. But if consciousness itself could be weaponized, everything they understood about warfare would become obsolete. Elena sensed the alien commander's growing alarm through the network. Some humans with psychic sensitivity had always existed, and the quantum field was amplifying those abilities dramatically. She could perceive Vexhai's thoughts and emotions as clearly as if he were sitting in the same room. Through this expanded awareness, she learned something crucial about the Galactic Council. They were not the unified coalition they pretended to be. Multiple species with competing interests had formed an alliance based primarily on mutual technological dependence. Their authority relied heavily on the assumption that younger civilizations would remain psychologically intimidated by superior technology. Elena shared this intelligence through the network instantly. 1 billion human minds suddenly understood that their oppressors were more vulnerable than they appeared. The Council's power was largely psychological, maintained through fear and the appearance of invincibility. This realization triggered a new phase of resistance. In Beijing, engineer Li Wei had been working on quantum processing systems when the field reached him. His consciousness merged with the collective, giving him instant access to theoretical physics knowledge from researchers around the world. Using this combined understanding, he began constructing devices that could interface directly with Council technology. In Stockholm, marine biologist Dr. Anna Larson found herself able to perceive the biological aspects of various Council species. Her enhanced understanding revealed physical and psychological vulnerabilities that could be exploited without causing permanent harm. In Cairo, historian Professor Ahmed Hassan gained access to the collective's growing knowledge of galactic politics. He began formulating diplomatic strategies that could turn the Council's own member species against each other. Elena felt these and thousands of other initiatives beginning simultaneously across the globe. The collective consciousness was not just a tool for resistance. It was becoming a mechanism for rapid human evolution. Commander Vexhai received reports that his ground forces were experiencing complete mission failure. "Sir, our personnel cannot maintain control over their assigned sectors. The humans appear to anticipate our every tactical decision. Are they intercepting our communications?" "No, Commander. They seem to be reading our tactical intentions before we implement them. Additionally, our weapons and equipment continue to experience selective malfunctions that occur precisely when we attempt to use force." Vexhai studied the tactical displays with growing unease. Every principle of warfare he understood was proving ineffective against this new form of human resistance. How did one fight an enemy that could apparently rewrite the rules of physical reality? Dr. Mitchell detected a concerning development in her monitoring systems. "Elena, I'm seeing massive energy buildups in the Council's orbital platforms. They appear to be preparing for a large-scale bombardment of the planet's surface." Elena felt the information flow through the network, triggering immediate alarm and determination from 1 billion connected minds. Through their expanded awareness, they could perceive the alien weapons powering up in orbit. The Council was preparing to destroy major population centers in an attempt to break the quantum field network. But the collective consciousness was ready. Elena focused her will, joining it with the 1 billion other minds connected to the network. Together, they directed their attention toward the orbital platforms threatening their world. The quantum field around Earth began to fluctuate in precise patterns, creating interference effects that reached into space. On the bridge of his command ship, Vexhai watched in horror as his weapons systems began experiencing cascading failures. The energy conduits that powered their most devastating weapons were simply shutting down, not from any external attack, but as if the fundamental forces that governed their operation had been altered. "Commander," his science officer called out in a voice filled with unprecedented alarm. "The quantum field effects from the planet are extending into near space. Our ship's systems are becoming unstable." Elena felt the moment of crucial decision approaching. The collective consciousness had demonstrated its defensive capabilities, but the Council still possessed the potential to cause massive destruction if they chose to sacrifice their own forces in a desperate attack. Through the quantum network, she sensed 1 billion human minds reaching the same conclusion simultaneously. It was time to end the Council's occupation of Earth permanently, but they would do so in a way that demonstrated humanity's evolved beyond the need for violence as a primary solution to conflict. Elena opened her eyes, which now glowed with subtle quantum energy patterns that reflected the network's activity. She looked directly at the Council complex visible through the window, and through the collective consciousness, she spoke to every alien on Earth and in orbit around it. Her words weren't transmitted through any technological system. Instead, they resonated directly in the minds of every Council member throughout the solar system, carried by quantum field fluctuations that transcended conventional communication methods. Members of the Galactic Council, Elena's voice echoed in Vexhi's mind with perfect clarity. Humanity no longer requires your oversight. We have evolved beyond the limitations you assumed would keep us subordinate. You will withdraw from our solar system peacefully, or you will discover that consciousness itself can be the most powerful force in the universe. Vexhi felt something he had never experienced before, the direct contact of an alien intelligence that was both vastly superior to his own and, yet somehow, fundamentally benevolent. The human collective consciousness could have simply destroyed his forces, but instead it was offering an opportunity for peaceful withdrawal. Through the quantum field, Elena shared with the Council forces a direct experience of what humanity had become. For a brief moment, every alien in the solar system felt what it was like to be part of a collective consciousness that valued individual identity while achieving unprecedented unity of purpose. The demonstration lasted only seconds, but its impact was transformative. The Council members experienced cooperation and understanding on a level their species had never achieved. They felt the raw power of 1 billion minds working in harmony, but also the restraint and wisdom that guided that power. Elena sensed the change in the alien forces immediately. Fear was being replaced by wonder, aggression by curiosity. The Council members were beginning to understand that humanity offered them something they had never encountered: the possibility of true cooperation rather than dominance-based alliances. Commander Vexhi stood silent on his bridge, processing the profound implications of what had just occurred. His entire understanding of civilization and power had been fundamentally challenged and found wanting. Elena smiled, feeling the collective consciousness beginning to focus on the next phase of humanity's transformation. They had successfully defended Earth, but more importantly, they had discovered capabilities that would allow them to take their place among the galactic community as equals rather than subjects. The ultimate weapon hadn't been a device or technology. It had been the recognition that consciousness itself, when properly unified and focused, could transcend any limitation that had previously been considered absolute. Earth was free, but more than that, humanity had taken its first step toward becoming something greater than they had ever imagined possible. 6 months after the Prometheus Protocol's activation, Elena Rodriguez stood in what had once been the Galactic Council's administrative complex in Geneva. The towering alien architecture remained, but now it served as humanity's first consciousness research institute, where scientists from around the world studied the implications of their transformation. The quantum field network had become a permanent feature of human civilization, though individuals could now choose their level of connection. Some people prefer to remain linked constantly, sharing thoughts and experiences in real time. Others connected only during specific activities or emergencies. The choice belonged to each person, representing humanity's commitment to preserving individual autonomy, even within collective consciousness. Dr. Sarah Mitchell reviewed the latest data from monitoring stations around the world. The changes to human society had been profound and largely positive. Crime rates had plummeted as potential criminals found themselves unable to ignore the emotional impact of their actions on others. Scientific discovery had accelerated exponentially as researchers could instantly share insights and collaborate across disciplines and continents. But perhaps most significantly, humanity had begun to understand its place in the wider universe in ways that fundamentally challenged previous assumptions about civilization and consciousness. Elena walked through the Institute's main laboratory, observing experiments that would have been impossible just months earlier. Dr. Rachel Kim was working with volunteers to test the limits of reality manipulation through focused consciousness. Small objects were being moved, electromagnetic fields were being generated without technological assistance, and some participants were demonstrating what could only be described as localized time dilation effects. The theoretical implications are staggering, Dr. Kim explained as Elena approached her workstation. Consciousness appears to be a fundamental force of nature, similar to electromagnetism or gravity, but operating on quantum scales we're just beginning to understand. Elena nodded, feeling the subtle background hum of the quantum field that now permeated Earth's atmosphere. Through her enhanced awareness, she could sense the emotional states of everyone in the building, the complex web of thoughts and intentions that connected all human activity. What surprised her most was how natural it felt. The initial fear that humanity would lose its individuality had proven unfounded. Instead, people had become more themselves, not less, knowing that their thoughts and emotions were part of a larger tapestry, had encouraged authenticity and emotional honesty in ways that traditional society had never achieved. A communication alert drew Elena's attention to the Institute's main display screen. Commander Vexhi's image appeared, transmitting from his ship in the outer solar system. The Zathari commander had requested permission to remain in Earth's vicinity as an observer, studying the human transformation with scientific fascination rather than military concern. Ambassador Rodriguez, Vexhi began, his translator rendering his complex vocalizations into English. I'm transmitting a report from the Council's home worlds that may interest you. Elena accepted the data packet, which her enhanced consciousness processed instantly. The information was remarkable. News of humanity's transformation had spread through galactic civilization, triggering unprecedented responses across multiple species. Some civilizations had reacted with fear, implementing defensive measures against what they perceived as a new threat to the established galactic order. But others had responded with intense curiosity and hope. Species that had been subjugated by the Council for centuries were beginning to question whether alternative forms of civilization might be possible. There's something else, Vexhi continued. 3 species have sent diplomatic missions requesting to study your consciousness amplification techniques. The Karani Collective believes your methods might allow them to heal psychological trauma that has affected their species for generations. The Trillics are interested in whether collective consciousness could help them overcome the communication barriers that have isolated their civilization. Elena felt excitement ripple through the quantum field as humans around the world shared her sense of possibility. They had discovered something that could benefit not just themselves, but potentially all conscious life in the galaxy. But the implications went deeper than diplomatic opportunities. Dr. Mitchell approached with her tablet, displaying new analysis data. Elena, we're detecting quantum field fluctuations from other star systems. It appears that some species are attempting to replicate our consciousness amplification technology. Elena wasn't surprised. The principles underlying the Prometheus Protocol weren't particularly complex once understood. Any civilization with sufficient knowledge of quantum field manipulation could theoretically create similar networks. The real challenge was social and psychological rather than technological. Are any of them succeeding? Elena asked. Limited success so far, Sarah replied. The Karani have achieved small-scale consciousness linking among volunteer groups, but they haven't reached the critical mass necessary for reality manipulation effects. The species that have tried to implement the technology through coercion or without proper psychological preparation have experienced system failures. Elena understood why. The quantum consciousness field responded to emotional authenticity and voluntary participation. Fear, anger, or forced compliance created interference patterns that prevented stable network formation. The technology only worked for civilizations ready to embrace genuine cooperation and mutual understanding. Through the quantum field, Elena sensed a subtle disturbance from the direction of Mars. Something was happening near the former Council detention facility where humanity's ambassadors had been executed. Dr. Mitchell, are you detecting any anomalous readings from Mars orbit? Sarah checked her instruments and frowned. There's definitely something unusual. Quantum field fluctuations consistent with consciousness amplification technology, but the pattern is different from ours. Elena felt a chill of concern flow through the network. If another civilization had successfully replicated their technology and was operating in the solar system without permission, it could represent a new threat to Earth's independence. But as the data came into focus, Elena realized the situation was more complex than a simple intrusion. Elena, Commander Vexhi's voice carried a note of wonder. You need to see this. The main display shifted to show the space around Mars. Near the location where the human ambassadors had died, a structure was materializing that defied conventional physics. It appeared to be constructed from crystallized quantum fields, visible only because of its interaction with local space-time. What am I looking at? Elena asked. According to our sensors, it's a consciousness preservation matrix, Vexhi explained. The quantum signatures match theoretical descriptions of technology that could maintain individual consciousness patterns after biological death. Elena felt the full attention of the human network focus on the display. Through their collective awareness, they began to understand what had actually happened during the execution of the ambassadors. The 17 human representatives hadn't simply died when the council executed them. Their consciousness patterns had somehow been preserved in the local quantum field, maintained by the same energy that would later power the Prometheus protocol. The ambassadors had become the first humans to achieve true consciousness independence from biological limitations. Dr. Mitchell's readings confirmed the incredible possibility. Elena, I'm detecting 17 distinct consciousness patterns within that quantum matrix. They're stable, coherent, and apparently self-aware. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes as the implications became clear. The ambassadors hadn't died in vain. They had become pioneers of a new form of existence that humanity was only now advanced enough to detect and understand. Through the quantum field network, Elena reached out toward the consciousness matrix around Mars. The response was immediate and overwhelming. 17 familiar mental signatures reached back, flooding the network with joy, relief, and urgent communication. Ambassador Walsh's consciousness touched Elena's mind directly. His mental voice was changed, but unmistakably his own. Elena, thank the stars you can finally perceive us. We've been trying to communicate for months, but until the network achieved sufficient complexity, we couldn't establish contact. Elena shared the communication with the entire human network, triggering an explosion of excitement and wonder from around the world. The implications were staggering. Death itself might not be the absolute ending humanity had always believed it to be. How is this possible? Elena asked through the quantum field. Director Petrov's consciousness responded with information that flowed directly into Elena's awareness. When the council executed us, our consciousness patterns were somehow imprinted on the local quantum field. We think it happened because our minds were already partially synchronized with Earth's quantum communication network. Dr. Mitchell was frantically analyzing the data streaming from the Mars facility. Elena, the quantum field generators we built for the Prometheus protocol weren't just amplifying human consciousness. They were creating a permanent quantum information storage matrix that could preserve consciousness patterns under specific conditions. Elena understood the revolutionary implications immediately. Humanity hadn't just developed a weapon against alien occupation. They had accidentally discovered the key to transcending biological limitations entirely. But Ambassador Walsh's consciousness carried a warning along with the wonder. Elena, there's something else you need to know. The Council didn't execute us because they thought we were planning a rebellion. They executed us because they discovered what the Prometheus Protocol was capable of achieving. The information flowed through the quantum network with devastating clarity. The Galactic Council hadn't been responding to human aggression. They had been trying to prevent humanity from discovering its true potential. The executions had been intended to terrorize Earth into abandoning the consciousness research that threatened the Council's fundamental authority. Elena felt anger surge through the human network, but it was quickly tempered by understanding. The Council's fear had been justified from their perspective. Consciousness-based civilization represented an evolutionary step that would make all forms of dominance-based authority obsolete. Commander Vexhi's voice interrupted her thoughts. Ambassador Rodriguez, I'm receiving priority communications from the Council homeworlds. They're demanding immediate reports on human consciousness technology and requesting permission to study your population. Elena felt the collective human consciousness focus on this new threat. Through the quantum field, she could sense Vexhi's genuine concern for humanity's welfare, despite his official obligations to the Council. Commander, what are your personal recommendations? Elena asked. Vexhi was silent for a long moment before responding. Honestly, I believe my people need to learn from yours rather than attempt to control you. But the Council leadership may not see the situation the same way. Elena made a decision that reflected the collective will of the human network. It was time to demonstrate that Earth's transformation had evolved beyond simple defensive capabilities. Dr. Mitchell, can we establish quantum field communication with the Council homeworlds? The theoretical basis exists, Sarah replied, checking her calculations. We would need to coordinate all 7 installation sites to generate sufficient field coherence for interstellar communication. Elena felt the human network's unanimous agreement. Through the quantum field, every installation around Earth began modifying their output frequencies. The combined consciousness of humanity focused on a single purpose, establishing direct contact with the Galactic Council leadership on their own worlds. The effect was immediate and unprecedented. Across multiple star systems, Council leaders who had never experienced direct consciousness contact suddenly found their minds touched by the collective awareness of humanity. Elena spoke through the quantum field, her words resonating directly in the consciousness of every Council member throughout the galaxy. Leaders of the Galactic Council, humanity no longer seeks your permission or approval. We offer partnership between equals or peaceful separation. The choice is yours, but the age of your dominance over younger civilizations has ended. The response was swift and dramatic. Some Council species reacted with panic, attempting to mobilize military forces against the perceived threat. But others responded with wonder and curiosity, recognizing that humanity had achieved something beyond their current understanding. Elena felt the consciousness patterns of the preserved ambassadors joining with Earth's network, their unique perspective from beyond biological death, adding new dimensions to humanity's collective awareness. Ambassador Walsh's understanding merged with her own. Elena, this is just the beginning. Consciousness-based civilization isn't just about Earth anymore. We're showing the galaxy that evolution beyond physical limitations is possible. Through the quantum field, Elena could perceive other star systems where species were beginning their own consciousness experiments. The transformation humanity had undergone was becoming a template that other civilizations could adapt to their own needs and capabilities. Dr. Mitchell's instruments detected massive changes in galactic communication patterns. Elena, we're seeing quantum field fluctuations from dozens of star systems. It appears that multiple species are attempting to establish consciousness networks. Elena smiled, feeling the collective satisfaction of humanity's achievement. They had not only freed themselves from alien domination, but had also sparked a galactic evolution toward forms of civilization based on cooperation and mutual understanding rather than fear and control. The ultimate weapon hadn't been designed to destroy enemies. It had been designed to transform the very nature of what civilization could become. Humanity had discovered that consciousness itself was the most powerful force in the universe, capable of transcending every limitation that had previously seemed absolute. Elena looked out at the stars, knowing that Earth's children would soon explore the galaxy not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in a cosmic community based on the recognition that all consciousness was fundamentally connected. The age of enforced separation and artificial scarcity was ending, replaced by an era of voluntary cooperation and unlimited possibility. The war for Earth's freedom had ended not with victory over enemies, but with the transformation of the entire concept of conflict itself. Consciousness, it turned out, was not only the ultimate weapon, but also the ultimate tool for peace.